Welcome on the phone. The head coach of the Pine Bluffs Hornets, Will Gray, is with me as our small school game of the week for WyoPreps, as voted on by you, the fans, takes us to Class 1A 9-man with a top 4 showdown. Top-ranked Lusk Tigers on the road to face the 4th-ranked Pine Bluffs Hornets. And, Coach, thanks so much for taking some time to visit with me. First of all, what did you learn about your team coming off the scrimmage and then a 30-0 win last week at Riverside?
I think the biggest thing we learned is that it's okay to be physical and it's okay to be tough, and you know what? It's okay to tackle, because the last 2 years we haven't tackled anyone. And that was the emphasis from day one. You know, we weren't in pads, but we were tackling bags. We were working on our tackling technique against, stand-up dummies and bags, and that's been the emphasis, and the kids they're starting to figure it out.
Speaking of figuring it out, how has the transition gone from 11-man to 9-man and now having a year under your belt?
We were kind of unsure about it. We were on the fence. We wanted to stay 11, but the more we looked at the bodies that we have, we just realized we don't have any big kids. And so, as we've gotten to the 9-man stuff, we realized that it fits our kids and it fits our personnel really, really well because we don't have those big bodies. I think we only have 2 kids over 200 pounds on our roster.
Wow.
It allows us to use what we have in space. So we've really enjoyed it. We like playing on a regulation field. Our defensive coaches hate it. But I love it as an offensive guy. There's more space and you can do a lot more.
Talked about earlier with your tackling, you guys were able to really shut down Riverside from a defensive perspective. What impressed you the most about your defense's performance?
Communication. This group has always been able to fly around and do things. Tackling was a limitation, but communication was also a limitation for them. That they're really good friends, but when they step on the field, the communication just wasn't there, and they're starting to figure out that, it's not illegal to talk to my teammates. I'm not going to get a penalty for telling my teammate, hey, this is where you need to be. And the communication for the last 3 weeks in practice has been good. They're talking through things. After a play at practice, somebody will be like, hey, you were supposed to be here. And then they're talking through it on how it's supposed to be. And that's been pretty fun to see.
You had a quarterback last year that had to go through some growing pains. What have you seen in Stu Lurwick's development?
Number one is just overall maturity, and that's every high school kid going. He started a few games as a freshman, and then last year he started every game for us, and just seeing how things develop, seeing how teams are playing us. In 9-man, we strictly see man coverage, and now it's about finding the best matchup through the man coverage across the board, and who's got the leverage and who's going to be open pre-snap without standing there and just waiting and waiting and waiting. You got to get rid of the ball because the edges are so short, and that's probably been his best thing is knowing where to go with the ball before it even happens.
How do you think things went with kind of distributing the ball to different weapons that you have?
Oh, great. Last week we had 6 guys with catches. 5 of them had 2 or more catches. We've got a lot of good skilled kids. Now it's just a matter of finding ways to get them the ball and using all of them. And that's going to be my challenge is getting all our kids the ball.
You got a little bit of a quote-unquote bell cow up front and kind of also leading you on defense in Diego. What have you seen from that young man?
Diego, he's a great kid. He's kind of a goofball. But, last year he broke his hand in the middle of our first-round playoff game, and we said, well, it's up to you. You can come out, but we'll tape it. We'll put a pad on it. He said, nope, put a pad on it. I'm going to finish.
Wow.
He ended up having surgery on it mid-November. It was in a cast till January. And, just his toughness is something that we really, really like. And that can't be understated because tough kids, they might not always be the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest, but they're going to find a way to get things done. And he's a tough kid, and he finds ways to get things done for us.
Well, let's get to the big matchup that you guys get a chance to host Friday night. You guys have seen each other throughout the years. Talk about Coach Nelson and the Lusk Tigers and what you kind of expect, considering they don't have Drake Lamp, but still kind of reloaded and ready to go as the number 1 ranked team in 9-man right now. Yeah,
it seems like they're always reloading. Ryan and I are good friends. We talk a lot. We don't necessarily talk a lot the week we play, but throughout the rest of the year, we're always texting and calling each other. But he does a really good job with his kids of being ready to play. They're always solid up front. They don't run things that are going to confuse their kids. They know exactly what to do. They're physical. They're going to hammer at us lots of ISO and fullback dive, and then throw some play action in there. But they hang their hat on running the ball and beating you up, and we just have to tackle and then give ourselves a chance.
Is that something that you really got to emphasize? Hey, guys, get ready for a physical game, knowing that you want to see more physicality out of your defense?
Oh, absolutely. That started, Monday we had practice on Labor Day at 7 o'clock under the lights, and that was the first thing we said is, hey, get ready, because they're going to swing the hammer at us lots and lots of times, and you got to get up and answer the bell every time. And that's tough to simulate at practice. But we just got to keep talking about it and preaching it and doing things like that.
Well, it should be an exciting time. Best of luck to you, Will, and I appreciate it. Have fun Friday night against the Tigers.
Yep, thanks for having us. We enjoy it.
We continue the conversation here as we gear up for our small school game of the week at WyoPreps.com, as voted on by you, the fans, and it's top-ranked Lusk on the road at fourth-ranked Pine Bluffs in a Class 1A 9-man matchup. And Coach, usually I ask coaches what they've learned about your squad in action so far, but I know you've had a scrimmage. And then last week, unfortunately, you had your game scrapped due to a forfeit. But what have you learned, I guess, practice-wise and in the scrimmage about your team so far?
Just we're kind of the way we thought we'd be. We got our strength is on our lines, having everybody back, and we're pretty solid across the front, so that kind of dictates us how we run things on both offense and defense.
Who jumps out on that line, and who's kind of important for you guys to have success when you're running behind, or somebody is getting in the opponent's backfield a little bit and shutting things down defensively?
Well, we got Dylan Molzon, Dane Lamp, Riley Blackburn, and Mason Wells. They form a pretty solid front, and they're all pretty good-sized kids on both offense and defense. And our backs get the luxury of running behind those big guys.
Yeah, I guess so. Now you replace a great back in Drake Lamp. I guess how do you kind of keep things going with that ground attack this season?
We're not going to have just a single guy that can replace Drake, so we're using kind of a committee right now and kind of seeing who steps up. Without playing a game, it's kind of hard to tell right now just exactly who it's going to be. We'll get that figured out as we go.
This is kind of a tough matchup in terms of, since you actually haven't played an official game, is this difficult to start off against such a big rivalry?
It's going to be a challenge. That's what we were pretty upset not being able to get at least something going last week with that late forfeit. But the boys handled it well. We're a pretty experienced team, so they've handled everything. Just kind of take it in stride and control what we can control and go from there.
We'll talk about Coach Gray's squad. What do you kind of anticipate in the matchup?
They bring back just about everybody from last year. So with Lerwick at quarterback and all those tall, lanky receivers, I expect them to kind of air it out. And they had some success doing that on us last year. So that's kind of what we've been prepping for.
I was going to say, because both teams do have so much experience, how much does it come down to maybe just execution in general?
Yeah, I think it's going to be whoever can, what style of game it is. We kind of want it to be a smash mouth, grind it out type of game, and they'll want to air it out. So I guess we'll see who wins out on that.
Coach, how do you feel your team deals with having high expectations kind of put on them from the outside looking in? Do you guys talk about that at all? Or how do you think they handle, having those high expectations over the last few years?
That's still a work in progress. So we've talked about it, saying, yeah, we're ranked pretty high, but we haven't played a game yet, so we don't know who's right or who's wrong on that. But we want that ranking at the end of the season to be the one that matters.
Absolutely. You guys did get to the championship last year, and I know you fell short. I was at that game out at Yoder against Southeast. What do you think your veteran kids that are coming back learned in playing in that game in terms of what it does take to get to the top of 1A 9-man?
So hopefully, what it takes to finish. We went into the fourth quarter leading and let it get away from us. And that where we were so junior heavy last year, that they took it to heart and kind of motivated them over the summer and so far through practice.
What about adjusting to 1A 9-man? How do you think your kids have adapted to that now that you're in your second year with that?
I think they're getting better. They're realizing how important it is to be able to tackle in space, because you wouldn't think taking two guys out would be that big a difference, but we were dang sure in a lot of shootouts last year, so hopefully defensively they've figured that part out.
And what are your just general thoughts on Class 1A 9-man football this year going into year 2? What do you think the state has?
Well, I think it's exciting. It's good to keep, our school seems to keep dropping in numbers, so it allows us to play something somewhat similar to 11-man and still keep those core values of our program there. So I think it's worked out good for us.
What do you think the prospects are? What do you think some of the other teams have? Obviously, you got a big matchup against Pine Bluffs, and you talked about how they have a lot coming back. What else do you see in terms of from other teams around the state, or what you've kind of glanced at so far?
Well, obviously, Southeast has got those 2 all-state backs coming back. Mm-hmm. And we scrimmaged Shoshone, so we saw what they did with Southeast last week, so they've got a quality group. And, we played Rocky twice last year, and they'll be solid as well. And I think at least the east side is just solid top to bottom, so you got to be ready each week, because you take one off, then you'll get knocked on your butt.
All right, bottom line, without giving away your game plan, what are some of your biggest keys against the Hornets?
Time of possession, hopefully keep their offense on the sidelines and, make them come up and play physical with our big guys, and we'll see how it goes.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck against the Hornets tonight.
All right, thank you.